Thanks for joining us on Life Songs. Hey, it's always really special when you get to talk to friends, but it's even more special when you get to talk to world famous friends, author, vice president, Mr. Brian Sanders. How you doing, sir?
I don't know who you're interviewing. World famous?
Yeah, you are a world
Wow.
famous
Wow.
Amazon
Really?
bestseller. Come on.
Really?
You got
Really?
to put all this stuff in your CV. This is how you
Really?
introduce yourself at parties
Oh.
now. Tell us about Be Like Dad.
Yeah, Be Like Dad is 50 stories about my dad. We lost him in August 2018 after a 7-week battle to cancer. And what these stories taught me about being a leader, being a husband, being a human, being a friend, about following Jesus, I wanted to pass that on. Second thing I would say is this is there's always this conversation going on about, are leaders made or are they born? You have raw materials that are within you. It's up to those outside of you to develop those raw materials. And so I'm making the case here that dad didn't have a lot of material to work with, but what he did have, he he made the best of it.
Will you share one of the stories from the book? Just one. I want people to get to know your dad through your lens and check out the book Be Like Dad by Brian Sanders, which you can win on Life Songs as we get it close to Father's Day.
We were home on vacation. I had to be 9 or 10 years old, and my grandfather lived in Calvin, Louisiana. This is up in North Louisiana, near a town called Winfield. My grandfather lived in the sticks, lived about 300 yards from a lake. Well, we're outside one afternoon on the front porch, and there's a lot of family there, and a friend drives up in a pickup truck. And everybody called my dad Junior because he was Jack Sanders Jr. And he said, Junior, come look at this. Well, we all go rolling out there and look in the bed of the truck. And this guy had brought 3 baby alligators over in the bed of his truck. And I tell people that this is recreation whenever you live in Louisiana.
It
Uh,
really is.
we're the only state usually that has an alligator park. You've got to admit that. Us in Florida, probably. So here are 3 baby alligators, probably 12, 14 inches long. And I have pictures of this. And so dad reaches over, he takes a stick and he pulls one of them to the side. And dad goes up the back and he grabs that alligator, puts his thumb on his head, and he pulls it out and he starts handing alligators to people. Dad's teaching them how to hold it. Well, here I am, 9 or 10 years old. I'm holding an alligator like we're petting it. We're all just, this is like, like a traveling zoo. This is the greatest thing ever. Well, this guy leaves. The friend who brought the alligators leaves, and dad says to him, I'll, I'll take care of that. I can take him back to the lake. Somehow or another, somebody said lunch. Dad says, put him in that styrofoam cooler over there and we'll take him to the lake. Well, we put him in the cooler. It didn't cross anybody's brain to tie that cooler down, to put a brick on top of the lid. You see where this is going.
See where this is going.
You see where this is going. So we put him in there. We put the lid on there. We go inside. We come back out 30 minutes later, and it's like Jurassic Park. This lid's off the cooler, and there's no gators. And my grandfather's house stood about 12 inches off the ground. Well, now all the women, they won't go off the porch. People are screaming. Uh, Needless to say, 2 hours later, we found 2 alligators. One was never found. One alligator, it was never found. 5 years later, in a pond about 400 yards from where my grandfather lived, the front page of the local paper said 15-foot alligator found in this pond. And so what was funny is that for like 90 days, whenever you'd walk out of my grandfather's house, everybody would stop and look. Even if you were late for church in a rush, you'd stop and you'd look, because you just knew you're going to roll up on like a 6-foot alligator just waiting on you. There's a lesson in that for me. And dad stopped all of us. And I remember saying this. He said, look at the next step. He said, what should we have done? Well, we should have tied down the lid. We should have put a brick on there. So now that I think about this, often as husbands, wives, parents in life or whatever, we're so focused on the now that we don't look at what's next. What am I going to do today that might impact tomorrow? How is this going to tie into what tomorrow is, or even next week, or even next year? So that's a huge lesson, and it might end up that you lose an alligator in the process. So there you go.
This is Brian Sanders hanging out with us on Zoom today with Be Like Dad, his new book, which you can win on Life Songs leading up to Father's Day. If you want to check out more stories from this book, be sure to visit lifesongs.com, and we'll be sharing it on social media. Brian, thank you for taking time to chat with me. It's always great to talk to you, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir. It's my honor. And blessings to each of you. I love Life Songs. I love this ministry. I spent 15 years of my life there. I met my wife through Life Songs. Blessings to each of you, bro.